Happy Monday, everybody. Monday, getting our way through April. I'm Russ Kane. This is The Daily Show, exclusive to Men's Radio Show. Men's Radio Station, it's live, 100% live, 100% uncensored. And we just get on with it. I'm so excited about my guest. I'm so crazy excited about my special guest. Let's see what we got in the comments coming up. It's so professional. Fat Scotty, it's the big reunion. And Sen Monroe, happy Monday to you all. Indeed. I had the pleasure of working with this particular person for many years. I think 5 days a week for 9 years. And we became best buds. And she's lived in California now for eons. When she went out there for the great gold rush in 1865. And she stayed. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, we are reunited. It's only Cara Noble.
This is like the old days, because you were never in the studio. We never would next to each other and touching. You were up in the eye. I was in the studio. Here we are.
No touching. No touching. That we can't do any. We cannot do touching. Here we go.
We always have a nice cup of tea, don't we, when I come to town?
Yes, it's always lovely. Good day from New York State, says Azadon Brown. Robert Van Buren, clockmaker to the stars, says, come on, silly old thing. Right. Hello, Cara.
Hello.
Sam Monroe says, hello to Cara.
Oh.
And then we've got come on, why is this so horribly slow today? Hello to Cara, Sam Monroe, and then Fat Scotty.
Oh,
his
hello.
name, not mine. Happy Monday, Russ, Longy, and Cara. Speaking of Neil Long, now we were just chatting before the show in the green room, and yeah, right. And see if you remembered, Mr. Neil Long. Do you remember Neil Long?
No. I'm sorry, I do remember you. Of course I do. But I think we may have segued. I think
hello.
95.
I remember you. Sorry, internet's really dodgy this morning, so I'm probably buffering all over the place. But I was in the studio once with you and Chris Tarrant, and you reached across and said hello, and I was almost.
We'll never know what happened. We'll never know what he thought. We'll never know what he thought. Sadly, Neil lives in a place called New Malden, where they might be getting electricity soon, but we're not quite sure. The beautiful Françoise Pascal.
Hello. Yeah, we're Facebook friends.
Yeah, of course. David Green, happy Monday. And from New York State, we'll go to Manhattan. And we say hello to Facebook user. Fantastic to see you, Cara. It's like the good old days. That's from Stephen Marsh.
They were fabulous days.
Absolutely great. Happy Monday from David Green. And it's apparently murky in New York City, Manhattan. My internet is dodgy. No, that must be you. Yeah, the internet is terrible. And one of your biggest fans, Francine Warner of North London. Hi, Fran. She loves you. Love. Fat Scotty, by the way, talking about New Malden. New Malden still has got gas lamp lighters. Probably. Right. How are
primitive
you?
in New Malden, dude.
Where are? What? Yeah, I'm going to just diss New Malden. I don't care, baby. That's how it is. Cara, what are you up to? Where are you living? Well, I know, but everyone else doesn't. So give us a little bit of a resume.
I moved to Los Angeles 22 years ago.
Blimey, O'Reilly.
I know, all that time ago. And I live on the edge of LA in a place called Woodland Hills, quite leafy, nice. Yes. It's fine. It's very nice. And
lovely.
I'm now an American, even though I don't sound like it. I still do voiceovers. Actually, I still do a little bit of radio now and again, but I do voiceovers. And in 23 years, I still can't do an American accent. So that shows you how talentless I actually am.
Can you not?
What a shame, though. I'm in America. But I can't do it. So there's no point pretending.
Can you really? Elizabeth Green in Manhattan asked this. Did you go to Southampton High School?
Yes, I did.
So did my daughter, by the way.
I did go to Southampton. Yes.
Yeah. It's great.
About 65 to 71 or something. something like that. I left after my O levels, love.
Oh,
I wasn't very
Elizabeth Green. You may know her.
Green. Well, of course I remember you. Yes, of course.
Oh, you do.
Hello.
You do remember her.
Yes.
So your life, I've had the pleasure of being in your home many times in Los Angeles, and it is utterly gorgeous.
Yeah, you love it, don't you?
Oh God, I love it there. And it's interesting because I often get interviewed about radio heroes and stuff like that, and who are my influences. And your dad, the great Peter Noble, movie go round, Peter Noble. And I, as a kid,
which was a radio show from the 50s, we ought to add, because we're a bit old.
Yes.
Some people won't know that.
Tim, that would be a little bit difficult, sweetheart, because Jono died.
Oh,
so unless Cara's using a Ouija board, that's not going to happen.
A couple of years ago, I'm sorry to tell you.
Jono Coleman died 2 years ago, very sadly. So no, Tim, the answer is unless you're sitting there with Doris Stokes in LA, that ain't going to happen, fella.
I like a bit of that, though. I do that.
Yeah, I know you do, but it scares the crap out of me. I hate that. I hate all that stuff. It really scares me a lot.
Oh, I love it.
Anyway, so your home's absolutely beautiful. The point I was going to make is that... now someone's got their speaker suddenly on, and I think that is Neil.
It's Neil.
That's Neil. Going to be a bit irritating. Neil.
Yes.
You recreated, Cara, your dad's office in one of your rooms in LA, and I asked you. I said, "Could I sit in his chair?"
Yeah,
I did. And to you, I guess it's sentimental. To me, I was sitting there going, "That was his phone. This was his desk," and I got really excited about the whole thing. It was it's a lovely tribute to your dad. And your mum, Marianne Stone, was in how many films?
227 films.
227 films.
I know.
Now, I don't know. Now, which one are we going to add? Are we going to try this one? Why have I got you twice? No. That's going to be horrible. That's horrible. That's just horribly.
We don't know which one works.
That's it. So, life in LA, is it still enjoyable, or has it all gone down the toilet like they try and tell us?
I think it's fine. I'm not sure. Do you mean like in what way down the toilet? I'm not even sure what you're referring to.
A lot of YouTube channels which have millions of followers, millions. And of course, they're saying that LA is just terrible now, as opposed to. I'm going to try this one with Neil now.
I don't even know what you even
That's
mean.
the one.
Hello, Neil. There he is.
Hello. So we seem to have dodgy internet from all sides. I'm desperate to get in on this conversation. Hello, Cara.
Hello, love.
Hello, my lovely. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm really fine. It's a lovely day here.
It's so nice to see you after all these years. I once was too shy to say hello to you at Capitol.
Oh, you silly thing.
Were you really?
I'm not shy anymore. Don't worry, but I was then.
Me neither.
Isn't it interesting? Even though we all work together and we're all at the same radio station for many years, people were still in awe of some of the other people and won't go up to them and say hello. Strange that, don't you think? People never think about that.
I was mornings and I was out of there by 9 sometimes. You probably weren't even there, so that's probably the reason.
No, that's the reason.
Yeah, I was Mr. All Night Long, wasn't I? So I'll be out of there by 4 a.m, so I never really saw you guys.
Well, that's absolutely right. I love this from Fat Scotty. If my thing would work. No, it's not. It's just not working. There we go. So, what the hell?
I don't know what you mean. We've had a lot of rain. Do you mean that?
No. I meant the sort of fact that there's great tent cities and stuff like that.
Oh,
or is that all exaggerated?
Well, San Francisco is a lot worse. I mean, there are tent cities and they get moved on and they pop up. But as I said, I'm in a kind of leafy woodland hills. I can't say I'm really affected particularly by it. But yes, there is a lot of homeless situation going on everywhere, I think.
Oh, here we go. This is from France. If I can get this on. Why is none of this is working? This is quite extraordinary. Francois says,
yes,
I used to have such a great laugh with your dad and my ex, Richard Johnson, who's very handsome, famous actor who's a friend of
yeah.
Peter's. Miss those days.
Oh, I know. Oh, he was a great guy, wasn't he? He was funny and he filled a room. I do miss that.
It's on the show a lot. We talk about missing our loved ones, missing parents growing up, and facing that loss. Do you think about them, or you come to terms with it all, or how's that with you now?
I think about them, of course, and sometimes it's a bit sad, especially around Easter, because we used to have always big sort of gatherings, and Mugsy would cook all this lovely food. Mugsy, I called her Mugsy. I'm Cudsy, she's Mugsy.
Yes.
And those events, a lot of people, their friends would come, like Dennis Norden and Barbara Kelly, all those.
Oh my God! Wow!
Really,
wow!
And we'd all have these lovely Easter lunches, and there was daffodils everywhere. I miss the daffs.
Do you not have daffs in LA? I can't remember.
We do, but they don't know. They don't. They don't get it.
They don't get it.
No.
Do you feel, you've been there 22 years, do you feel in any way American, or do you still feel like Cara from Crouch End?
It's a real mix.
Oh.
So, I use American words. I'll say pasta and avocado, which when I first got there was anathema to me. But I just
You mean a member of a religious church?
No,
pasta as in penne.
Oh,
yeah. Pasta as in spaghetti. I know it's so weird, but now it comes naturally, and I don't particularly like it. But sometimes when I'm doing my voiceovers, I'll get a script to read, and I'll look at a word and I'll think, "Oh God, I'm English. I'm reading this script in British. How do I pronounce this word?" And I have to go and ask an American, "How do you pronounce this word?" And then I'll know that I have to pronounce it the other way.
Oh, right.
That goes on, but yes, I'm a British American. I don't sound at all American, but I will use their phrases and words.
How do you feel about? Because I'll be honest, I'll show my hand on this because it drives me nuts. So a Brit goes over there, and within about 2 months, they're, "Yeah, hi Russ, how you doing?" And I said, "Why are you talking like that? You're from Hendon. Stop it." It's just.
Well, my daughter spent 2 years in Canada, and she's picked up a twang, so she has to say Ottawa or Toronto rather than Ottawa and Toronto. So there's a little twang she's picked up.
I think some people just do it. They may not being consciously gauche. I just wish I could. I can't say beautiful, but I've always said that for some reason. But I wish I could talk in an American accent.
Oh no, God, no.
I know. Just for work, though. But
for work.
Do it.
And you really can't, because you do so many voices.
Well, I can do the odd thing, but only fun. I can't get away. I'm not an actress.
Wait a minute. I saw you on stage at the Riverside.
That's true. And I watched myself in Grange Hill the other day because someone else found it. I know.
I didn't know you were in Grange Hill.
Oh, no. I think it was when Nicholas was a very tiny baby. So that would have been like the late 70s. And I played Miss Brooks. I was the hockey mistress. I know I was in 3 episodes. And I have to say, quite surprised. I wasn't bad at all. I wasn't great. I wasn't bad, but I never did that again.
Right. This is from Fat Scotty. Cara.
Yeah.
We read this out because this goes out on other radio stations, but they only get the audio feed. A little bit of tech talk there. Cara, your parents have left us the most amazing legacy that many of us remember fondly. Do you take greater solace from this, or for them being your mum and dad?
Ooh,
interesting question.
Two-parter as well. Gosh, in a way, you're right. I had the most amazing life with those 2 extraordinary people. And my father was the biggest showbiz fan of all time, and he got to meet all the people he admired. And my mother didn't even care that much about working, but she worked virtually every week. So that our life was very busy and fun, and we went everywhere, and we went to premieres, and people came to our home, and there was no paparazzi, there was no parking restrictions. It was a whole different time. And so I must say that, yes, the legacy of their life together was quite something. But then I went on to have a pretty extraordinary life myself. Some ups and downs.
Just a bit.
without a
Just-
doubt.
Just
But, you know.
just a bit you did, yes.
Yeah.
Just a tad. Here's the thing, and it's I can't get rid of this comment, by the way. Neil, if you can get rid of Fat Scotty's comment on the thing, that would be great. It's just that I don't know why everything seems it's very interesting. Everybody's internet is horribly slow today. No idea why.
The comment's not there, Russ.
Oh, it's on my screen. Oh, it's just my screen. Okay, fair enough. So, Cara, if you think about this, and Neil and I talk about this a lot, about social media and its enormous impact. And it's this, that when your dad, Peter Noble, was doing Movie Go Round, that was really the first time that we would hear about a film, some new big film with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard, all the big Ava Gardner, the huge stars, not like actresses today. You look at it and go, I don't know who the hell that is. Not a clue, and I'm not interested. So that was the first thing. And now, of course, everything is everywhere. Whereas when we grew up, it was very limited as to what you could actually find out about anything.
I know. You'd get the what's on in London. You'd rush and see what's on locally, what's on at the Gaumont, Kilburn, what's on at the Hampstead Classic.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But yeah. Oh, well, I mean, everything's different now, isn't it?
It is. Better or worse?
I think the internet's had its day. I think it's become a little bit of a frightening place that we have to go on it. We've got no choice.
Yep.
I think we had the fun for the first 10 years, and now they've got us by the short and curlies. But here we are. What can you do?
Well, that's one of the themes that we talk about a lot, because it comes up so much in bullying.
Yes.
When we were at school,
some of that bullying's not even real. That's another thing. Who knows what's real and what's Memorex anymore? We don't know.
No, we don't. Especially with deep fake. When deep fake is so convincing, etc., it's quite frightening. It needs controlling, but of course it won't be controlled.
No, it's too late
at all. People are always fascinated by Capital, where we all met. And I did a podcast. I was invited to do a podcast, and I was talking about how the Tarrant Breakfast Show was put together.
I heard you sent it to me, and it was fabulous.
I didn't know if you'd listened to it.
I did. It's great. I loved it.
Bless you. Thank you. But it's true, isn't it, that when we put together, we'd never met, any of us, and they did all these pilot shows. They were just diabolical.
I don't remember them being diabolical.
I don't remember them being good. They were very, very sort of stilted, and we were looking at each other for clues, and it wasn't natural.
Right.
It wasn't a natural flow. And then when everybody disappeared and said, "Oh, just do your thing," it became this absolute monster of a crazy show.
You reminded me. 4 million listeners did we have?
Yeah, 4 million listeners a day. I mean,
wow.
Well, this is it. I keep getting. I just want you to back me up on this. I'll tell you what fascinates me, because people say, "Oh, what about the planning?" I said it was a happy accident, and it kind of was a happy accident. We had a great producer who just let everybody do their thing. That was it.
It was an accident, but I knew the people at Capital. I don't know if you did, but I mean, I did. I was married to a producer there at that time, Simon Booker, Betty Booker. So I knew everyone behind the scenes, and they used to get me in to help out. When there was I remember one time there was a commercial being made with David Jensen, and they needed someone who knew where everyone was and everything was, and so I got a little job, and I was running around.
Oh,
and that's when Joe Sandilands noticed I had a little bit of a fun way with Chris Tarrant. She noticed it. And she also, it was her, she brought me, and that was definitely her idea as well. I heard you saying that. And as they say, God rest her soul. She
absolutely.
But what an incredible time. I'd never done radio. I had nothing. I knew nothing about it, just like you. We just fell into it, and it worked.
But the chemistry of the show was brilliant. I don't think, and I'm not just saying this because it's you, I've said this before, I even started working with Russ again. I don't think it's ever been beaten. I don't think it's ever been beaten. That breakfast show, I've never heard one. Even mine is not as good as that. but honestly, I honestly don't think it's ever been beaten in the market, and the market is fierce. It's still my favourite of all time. Definitely.
Right. Well, I thank you, and I'm sure that's true. I have to say, I'm going to agree with you, because not that I know any, and I can't really say it not by comparison, but it really was a phenomenon, because it was a whole new way of listening to people's lives through each other, and the interaction.
It was so natural and funny, really funny.
Yeah, it was a whole new thing, and we kind of started it. We stole it from the States, of course. They're always popping over to the States and getting ideas and flying back and bringing them to.
Oh goodness, yeah, they were doing that all the time, weren't they? The big, BJ, the big American voiceover, now hotter than ever. And all that.
The irony of this, you two. Well, Neil may not, Cara might. Do you know who went to the States because he spent a lot of time there and came back and tried to sell the idea of the zoo concept? Graham Dean.
Oh,
yeah, true, absolutely true.
Now that is really very sad.
It's awful because
he got knocked off the show.
He got knocked. Graham spent a lot of time in Florida. He liked it there. He came back and he said to the powers that be, "I've got this thing. We should do zoo concept where you get a number of people instead of like the DJ or the broadcaster, as I prefer." And that's it. And he got nowhere. And then they thought, "I know, we've got an idea. Why don't we do a Graham, after 15 years, lost his show, which he was terrible."
I mean, Graham Dean's a great presenter as well. He did some shows at Radio Jackie, actually. It was brilliant.
Yes.
Oh, little Graham, the Dean of Radio.
Graham Dean. And he's such a nice man. He's such a nice man and such a consummate professional. Really is.
Yeah, he's a darling.
This is from Liz Saul. I first met you, Cara. I'm not going to try and put the banners up anymore because everything's slow today. I first met you, Cara, says Liz Saul, when I did work experience at Capital Radio in the mid-90s. Chris Tarrant was lovely. Kid Jensen and Howard Hughes. I learned a lot and asked a lot of pertinent questions. Isn't that nice?
Oh, I wonder what they were. Cheeky.
Probably impertinent
cheeky questions. Yeah, knowing Liz Saul.
Nice.
Elizabeth Green, who was an usherette at the Hampstead Everyman when she was 16. That's hilarious, isn't it? She mentioned earlier.
I went to see Summer Holiday with Cliff Richard there.
Oh, do you remember the film started in black and white? Cliff arrives in the bus and it does a screen wipe and goes into colour.
I didn't, but thank you for that lovely memory.
Oh, God, yeah. Elizabeth Green in Manhattan says this. Cara, what about Adrian Love? He's never mentioned. I never met him, by the way, so I've got no...
Adrian Love?
I can't mention him.
Was he...
Jeff Love's son. Jeff Love was a big band leader, very big on TV in the sort of 60s and early 70s. Adrian Love, and I don't know. I never met him. Our paths never crossed.
And the name rings a bell. I can't put a face to the name.
Fat Scotty, Cara. Stations I've worked at tried to emulate you. Right, that's you, Cara Noble, which became hugely fake and laboured. How did you feel as the... Oh, great question. How did you feel as the only female on a male breakfast team, and did you have to compete for airtime? Oh boy, you've opened a can of worms there, boy. Oh, Jesus.
What you ask, love.
All right, careful what you ask, because you will find out.
I'll start with a joke, a jokey. I didn't have to compete for airtime because if Chris didn't like what I was saying, he'd just turn my mic off. So I was not in charge of my own microphone, so there was that. I didn't feel like I was like, one woman and a monk, because we were all great friends, and I still made the tea right until the day I left. No one else was ever brought in to make the tea. They still made me make the tea. You could say I was always the char lady. Didn't matter whether we had 4 million listeners or not. It's funny, actually, isn't it? When you think about it.
I love it. It's interesting because I think people try to retro mod these things, and as much as saying it must have been very different, it wasn't that sort of attitude, though, was it? That wasn't the atmosphere that we worked in. It wasn't. I don't think it was sexist. I mean, you can argue with me, but I don't think it was.
I think radio can be a little misogynist.
Well,
I will say that, but that's a whole nother thing. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was always fun, and of course, Chris was so brilliant, and his quips were so funny. and the things that he would, hang on to. And of course, his way of being funny was to put you down. Well, that was Chris's humor, and actually, I still really like it.
It is how it is.
Humor. I never minded it. It worked for us.
Here's something nice about Neil Long.
Oh.
Neil Long and his on-screen partner Nikki now have the longest-running breakfast show in London. That's on Radio Jackie,
Wow.
which apparently is very influential.
We think we're the longest male-female team. How long were you with Tarrant for?
8 years.
8. Yeah, we've been doing it 20. Would you believe?
Oh
Good
my
God!
goodness.
Wow,
That's amazing.
that is amazing.
Yeah, I call her my radio wife, Nikki Patrick. She's a great broadcaster.
She's very charming. You
Have you
introduced me.
divorced on a few occasions, or has it always been plain sailing?
Have we what? Sorry.
Divorced on a few occasions.
Not really. I think we might got a bit annoyed with each other once for about 2 minutes, but literally that's it.
Well, you're a darling.
Well, Neil's a terribly nice chap, so that's why. Right, I don't think you're going to be able to answer this, but many people want to know. But Paul Rose has had the sheer nerve to pop his head above the parapet and ask, can you tell us the origin? I can't believe people remember this.
I know
Cara B. No, she can't.
I know what he's
absolutely
going to
can't.
say. I remember that. I know exactly what he's going to say.
I know too. Well, I can, without going into enormous detail. Shall I or shan't I?
You can do whatever you like on this show.
Oh, that's fine then. I don't care.
We're happy.
You know me.
Yes. Well, oh God. Stand by, everybody. Put your kids
Okay.
out the room.
So we used to have a lot of silly jokes, like one day I came in and literally I'm reading the weather and I went, oh my God, my meringues. I put them in a day and a half ago. I don't know if you remember that, but that was like a running gag. So we had a lot of little running gags. And
Tufty Club.
the Tufty Club, yes.
Tufty
Oh,
Club.
yeah, that in the mornings.
Never understood that at all, but there we are. Just got on with it.
We were always there.
Tufty
So
Club.
one day I found this book. I think it was something like female fantasies. It was about female fantasies, and I was flipping around, and one was to do with a cake mix. Okay, I'm not going to go any further. You can use your own imagination about what
I already am.
with the cake mix or where it went.
They dreamt of working in Greg's. Was that it?
Something
That was it. That was it. They dreamt of working in Krasinski's, maybe.
So I was Cara B, and B was Booker, because when I first started that show, I was still Mrs. Booker, Mrs. Simon Booker. And so Chris called me that, Cara B. And then the cake mix got thrown on, and there it was. And in those days, you couldn't say everything and anything you wanted on radio.
Oh God, no!
Bloody, and I got called into the, hauled in somewhere. That was later in Hart, but I did once say bloody. I was in terrible trouble. So you couldn't say anything and everything.
Seriously.
Do you remember?
Trouble for bloody, yeah. I got called in.
Yeah. Do you remember that Chris one day? I've got to be terribly careful with this story. Had got hold of a tape of somebody. Please don't say the name, please.
Okay.
Incredibly famous and very serious.
Oh, I think I know.
Who?
Yes. I know exactly.
This particular person, who was one of the foremost BBC people, very serious, highly regarded, was having an illicit affair. And
It sounded more like a quickie, I think, wasn't it?
well, and the mate was a sound recordist, because it was all before mobile phones, and had bugged the room.
Well, no, he probably didn't turn it off or something, or didn't turn hers off. Or
God. Anyway, Chris had this tape, and he, during a record, played it, and no one understood for the next 2 hours how we could hardly speak. I can't even now. I do it in my one-man show, and I'm not going to do it on air. I do it in my one-man show when it's live, of what this particular person yelled out at the a critical moment.
Oh, now I'm absolutely intrigued. You can't leave me hanging.
I will tell you later. I can't say on it.
I think
we were crying, and we were trying to talk, and we were trying to do the show, and we were just crying. I've never forgotten. It's one of the funniest things that's ever happened in my professional life.
But Barry from Bushy, I remember that.
Hello,
Bushy. People
Barry
say
from
Barry
from Bush.
because that became one of his jingles. And me and all my friends, we all used to listen to Chris and Cara. It was the talk of the town. It was certainly because it was the market leader. We would all talk about it. Did you hear what they did today? It was one of the reasons I wanted to get into radio so much. I would set the alarm at 6:30 in the morning when you guys started, and just listen like a little anorak that I was, just soaking it all up. Seriously.
This is something I want to ask you, Cara, and I'm so thrilled you're here, and people are loving it. That I left after 20 years. I left in 2004. Come to the end of it was time to go. It was absolutely the right time to go. So for me, it's ancient history. Every day, something will come up where people want to talk about it. I never.
Really?
This is different. I never talk about it because it's a lovely part of my life. And as I said in that podcast, I loved every second of it. Had huge fun. But it was a job. That was that. And now I'm, men's radio station and women's radio station. They're my passion. It's what it's about. Writing my books. That's what I'm about now in 2023. What was it that people? I've been gone nearly 20 years, and they still remember everything. Want to talk about what was it? Because I don't think they do that with any other show.
It was magic. I mean, it really, really was.
It was a magical part of their lives, which you were part of, and hearing the name will trigger them back to those feelings. Like you smell, I don't know, coconut, and it reminds you of a holiday. It's a trigger, and it's a positive trigger for so many people because it was that big and that much repeated morning after morning, and that ingrained. That's why.
And it was many people's formative years. I always say, if someone says to me, "Oh my God, you're Cara," I go, and that doesn't happen very often because I'm in America and I've been gone, ran off, and there I was. But I just always make the joke. I bet you were listening to me when you were putting your school socks on, but they were. A lot of people were very young.
Your own neural pathway in people, if you like, and it's not been rewired. But that's a great thing. That's why we can have conversations like this now.
I do find it extraordinary because none of us can actually explain. We can look at aspects of it, but none of us can really explain this was the reason that. It is quite extraordinary. It seemed to affect, if you think about it, it was a show on what was a local radio station. It wasn't national. It was a local radio station.
But it was already Cuddly Capital. We all loved it before that show. And we all listened to it. Do you remember how it really grew? And we remember all those, those Sunday morning shows and Michael Aspel, which is what Simon Booker worked on, and in the mornings, and then Lulu. That when it was a lovely.
Oh God, Lulu! Hello, I'm Gerald Harper. Welcome to my Sunday affair with champagne and roses. And you know what? I was so excited that I wrote to Gerald Harper at Capital, and when he read my thing, he read out my card or letter, whatever it was, I was so excited.
Of course.
I was thrilled.
Oh my God.
Gerald Harper read my letter, Mom. Listen, Mom was there.
One of my friends was knobbing Mike Allen. I went in the studio at some point. And this was long before I was ever on the air. And I think he's gone, isn't he?
Mike Allen has passed, yes.
He's gone.
Mike Allen, give you just a little bit more. Mike Allen on Capital 194. Yeah.
So I heard.
Lived up to his name then.
He did.
Well, we're not going to talk about the bulk eraser. We'll move on. Fat Scott.
I was talking about that just yesterday with Rose.
Even for this show, that is such a disgusting story. It's hilarious, but I can't tell you. It's absolutely filthy. Paul Rose, my first ever attempt. Come on, focus, Russell, focus. My first ever temp job was 2 days at Capital in the Euston Tower. Best time ever.
Yes.
And Françoise Pascal says, I went to work on the Chris Tarrant show. In other words, she'd be traveling to work and listening. Here we go. Fat Scotty says this. One of the reasons we remember you, Cara, and the team is that you so often is that the intimacy of radio made us the sixth person on the breakfast team. We were part of the team. And you, Cara, made it so. It's lovely.
And that's a very interesting thing. And you've made me think a little deeper about this, because I was probably one of the first people on a show along those lines where I was able to pipe in whenever, not always whenever, but mostly. And also, you know, his fabulous sense of humor. And he was mean to me quite a lot. But that was the game. And I didn't mind. You know, it wasn't like I was pretending or acting. We had this was how we all, but I think people also took my side, and that made it more of a camaraderie, and that made us all friends. Because sometimes, like, don't be so mean to Cara. I used to get all these cards.
No, I get that. I get that with Nikki. I get the odd phone call. You know, Derek from Molesey. Hello, Nikki. It's a long time. Listen, want me to come and sort him out for you? You know, it's that kind of thing.
Yes.
The only time that didn't work was at a huge awards show that went absolutely sideways, which I'd written. I got called in to write. You and Chris were presenting, and it was the worst night of my professional career. It was just a nightmare because they didn't understand the relationship and the chemistry. Oh,
well, he said over to Cara, if she had more brain cells, she'd be Pond Life. Some people laughed, but some people who never seen the show or heard it, didn't think it was funny. And a drunken man, I'm assuming, but you know, he meant.
No, he was a famous QC.
Was he? He stood up and he shouted at Chris Tarrant, "Don't you speak to her like that."
It was worse. This night was a huge night for my industry, which is corporate communications. And it was at the Grosvenor, or the grand room at the Grosvenor, whatever it was, 1,000 people there. It was a big showcase for me because I'd been asked to write it. All the great and the good, and all my clients were there. All my like British Gas and British Airways, these huge people that I was writing for and everything. And it started off okay. And then this guy marched up onto the stage, grabbed the mic out of Chris's hand. Whoa. Chris went ashen. I'm sitting in the front table, and he just gave this lecture. Oh, God. But you know the best bit? It got even worse because then someone had a heart attack on the British Gas table. Not joking. Oh. And Chris had to say, "Is there a doctor in the house?" "No, I'm not joking." And then somebody found something in their food, and some woman started screaming. So I thought,
"Oh my goodness,
I'm never going to work again." And I went, Cara, this is true, and I hid in the toilet. And I shut myself in the cubicle for about 20 minutes. And I thought, wait a minute, Russell, you can't spend the rest of your life hiding in the toilet of the Dorchester Hotel. You're going to have to come out and face the music. Because it was a complete freaking fiasco. So I came out, and I saw two of my biggest clients approaching me from some huge production company because I was freelance. And they went, "There he is. There he is."
It wasn't your fault.
No, hang on, wait. So I'm thinking, I'm so dead. I'm so dead. My career is over. I'm going to be stacking shelves in Tesco's forever. And they said, and they were with their clients from some huge corporate, who knows. And they said, "We knew it. That was the Russ Kane sense of humor, the way you wrote into the script for that guy to come on the stage."
No.
Yes, swear to God. And I just went, "I'm glad you liked it. Lovely to see you," and buggered off as soon as I could.
What was he lecturing about? What did he lecture everybody on?
Don't be rude to women.
Yeah, don't be rude. How dare you? And then the actress. And then after the show, I bet you don't even remember this. After the show, we were sitting down, drinking, thinking, God, this was like awful. And there's this actress from Coronation Street came up and started lecturing you. I've never forgotten it. It was awful.
What, for putting up with it?
I thought, is this night ever going to end?
Oh my God, I don't remember that. There's so many things I don't remember, so it's so lovely to talk about it and see the photos and see you all.
Cara is asked this from Fat Scotty. "I often wonder what would happen if the demographic had been flipped to all female and one male to work. How would the show have worked if this had happened? Would have been too early. Would have been too early."
A very
good question, but I think
and I honestly couldn't answer it because it wouldn't have been me. I mean, I didn't know anything. I wouldn't want to lead a show.
It's a big deal.
One guy, it'd be kind of fun. I guess it could be quite fun.
But we have that on women, obviously on women's radio. All the presenters, all of them are, as you would expect, women. So there we go. Interestingly, just to round the circle off, your charming first husband, Betty Booker, Simon Booker, smart as a whip, brain like a planet,
Fabulous writer, still
a
writing
great writer, a great writer. One of my writing heroes, as it happens. So it's got nothing to do with the fact that you were once married. And invited me over for dinner, and that was the last time that I saw the wonderful Josephine Sandilands, who then got ill. So we had a wonderful evening together. It was in the middle of not when we had a little break from lockdown, you know, when we could all yay, and then we all had to get it locked down again. And it was a wonderful evening. He was a most gracious host, I have to say.
Oh, he's a darling.
An evening that will I remember always because of Jo Sandilands. Her funeral did her proud, I have to say.
Was it lovely? I did hear.
It was wonderful. And do you remember? Now this will freak everybody out. We had two young guys in our press office. One was called Mike Whitehill, and one was called Stephen Knight. Stephen Knight, I have alluded to it before, is now one of the most famous scriptwriters in Hollywood. He is I can't tell you how huge he is. And I've mentioned it to people in the industry. You know Stephen Knight? I went, well, yeah, I worked with him for years. Wow. I mean, he's a really huge, you know, like Scorsese level. It's gigantic. Mike Whitehill, who I haven't seen in years, got up and gave one of the eulogies to Jo Sandilands, and it was, I wrote to him afterwards.
Oh, really?
And I wrote to him afterwards. I said, I got to say, I sat there in awe of your eloquence and your wit, and it was just a perfect tone. She would have loved it.
But those two gentlemen, of course, you didn't mention. The reason they're so famous to everyone who watches television is that they invented Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, that's right. They were, well, David Briggs invented it and they did all the writing for it.
Right,
so David Briggs, who hired me, who was then married Jo Sandilands, created Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the most successful quiz show in the history of television. More countries bought it than any other quiz show ever.
Unbelievable.
And they just basically, it was the Capital Bong show, wasn't it? That's what it was. It was the Capital Bong show with bells on it.
Yeah, with a clever way of getting people to pay to try and be part of it. I can't quite remember how it all worked, but it was a brilliant show.
It was a brilliant.
I've actually bumped into Mike Whitehill a few times, and I don't come here that often, but it's amazing. You know, you still who you bump into in Soho.
Oh yes, I keep bumping into somebody called Ray Gelato. Drives me mad every Saturday morning. And Colin Vaines, weird, just putting it out.
They're your mates.
I
see you on Facebook. I know.
They are my mates. Ken Evans says this, and welcome back from Australia, Ken. Would you like to? I don't know if you're seeing the same as I am because the system's a little bit.
Can't see it now.
A lot of modern radio does not seem to have the feeling of spontaneity and the feeling of fun. Now radio feels flat. I go along with that.
Yeah, me too. Well, you know why, of course, because those days we were actually allowed to kind of do what we wanted, and we weren't often allowed to play the music we wanted, but we did get the odd song here and there. And then it became, over the years, no links, no chat,
just crunch and roll.
Yeah,
crunch and roll.
The station's ident, the top bottom station ident, boring. Like heart got so dull in that way. But I heard "Kiss from the Rose" the other day. "Kiss from a Rose."
Oh, "Kiss from a Rose." Yes.
Oh my God, that overplayed song.
I know. Can you? I couldn't believe it. I was at the hairdresser, love, and it came on, and I literally, I Shazammed it because I didn't want to forget. Because I forget a lot of things now. Because it was such a big deal. Didn't we all hear it a million times?
Yeah. Well, I remember when Pat Sharp would do his top 10 at 10, which people loved, and then they come up with the brainchild to basically play the same 10 songs every morning, but for a different reason. So you'd hear "Kiss from a Rose" because it was #1 in our charts, or they do the Australian top 10 and it was in there. And then suddenly they would lose the brilliance of the top 10 at 10 because what's happened to the top 10 from 1983? That's why people tuned in. It frustrated me, that did.
Fat Scotty has beaten me to it. We were informed by the geniuses who then were running everything eventually, very different atmosphere, as we all know, that the public would only get a song and remember it if it was played, and Fat Scott is absolutely right, 72 times.
What?
Yeah. I had
I
this
think I'm a
conversation with
strong option.
you know who. No
What,
names,
72
obviously.
times in one show, you mean? Because that's what it
It
was like. By
bloody
the
well
end.
felt like it most mornings. I
Yeah.
used to
Do I
take my
need to
headset
say
off.
everything I do it for you, Brian Adams? Just saying.
Yeah.
Simply Red, Fairground,
God.
Christ.
God.
Oh my God, it was.
And it was driving. The interesting thing is, I'm sure the public thought, "Oh, the presenters must love these love these songs and these tunes." No, we absolutely didn't. But as Cara has said, it was fired by computer. Be clear about that. Eventually, the computer was firing out the tunes, not not putting a record on a desk anymore. And you'd hear the same song 72 bloody times. It drove us mad.
But the criticism that everyone had when people found out that I worked for Capitol, it was like, "Oh, you no longer recognise you," blah, blah, blah. And then it was great station, but why do they keep repeating the song so much? And that was said over and over and over.
And they would not listen. Again. They wouldn't listen.
Well, what they said was that the audience changed every 20 minutes at breakfast. I mean, I'm sure there's some truth in that because people they're doing the teeth and then they jump in the whatever. But that's not a reason to bore the arse off the entire London audience.
Do you know it was so repetitive at some point? I can the song "Everything But the Girl" missing the Todd Terry remix. That one.
Oh yes.
Step off the train. I know what CD number that was in the Capitol studio. To this day, I can remember number 1030. 1030, 1030, and it was up there 1030. I can still see it in my head. That is how ingrained it is. I kid you not.
I tell you how bad it got, because a lot of people don't understand quite the mechanics of it, is that they so wanted to stop any presenter having any choice. Didn't matter how big these were household names, didn't make any difference. They did not want them any choice. They took the labels off the CDs and just gave them a number. And there'd be a list generated. You will play number 385, and then you will play number 702, and then
and that lasted about a week, because I remember one morning I'd done the overnight show, and they'd done the changeover to it. But what they'd done, they put the numbers on, but they hadn't kind of told the system about it. So basically, no one knew. It was just like a puzzle. Nobody knew what CD it was, and it was a guesswork. And I remember Richard Allenson coming in and going absolutely mental, and I don't blame him because he can't find his CDs.
Oh,
it was also brought to a stop by one man, Mr. Chris Tarrant, because he was so enraged at this treating people literally like sheep, and moronic sheep as that he did a whole show one morning. I don't know if he was still there or not, Cugsy. And it went, right, that was number 705.
Did he? Good for him.
And he would not do anything else. And he kept that up for 3 hours. And at the end of it, they realized, oops, we've upset our money.
Do you remember the day when they had that brainchild to make, because they were fighting off competition from the others in the market who they own now, but they didn't then, and they decided to make all the songs under 3 minutes?
No.
Do you remember that? And they edited all the songs down to under 3 minutes, 3 minutes or under. That lasted a week when they realized that the competition would soon come up with a jingle. We play all the songs here at it lasted about a week. But you're right, and we still get it nowadays to the degree in the workplace. I see it in workplaces, in radio workplaces. There's so much talent under the roof, diverse talent, and my biggest bugbear is the management don't recognise it. And if they would just allow these people to be good at what they hired them to do, the productivity and the joy in the workplace would absolutely soar. But all the time we're like little kids that can't be trusted. Then it's just frustrating for all concerned, in my humble opinion.
No, but you're
absolutely right. It was pretty pathetic. We were allowed one this was the early days, I guess. I think you're talking about when you moved to Leicester Square, and I never did do that. But we were allowed one song a day we could choose, and he would always choose Status Quo.
I was going to say that.
Gotta be Quo, isn't it? He had
that jingle that went, oh, I remember that.
And if it was my birthday, he'd play me When Smokey Sings ABC, which I love.
I love that
we love that.
Or Mary's Prayer.
Oh, yes.
Mary's was also
Fat Scotty says this is interesting, the point
we never got to choose
raised.
a song. At least you had one.
BRMB.
On the show, one.
Yeah,
one. We didn't. I didn't get any.
Bloody
Well, neither
cheap.
did I. BRMB edited songs to sub 3 minutes. You're absolutely right, Neil, on this, and I don't remember this. And if they couldn't edit it, holy God, they up pitch, which means they speeded it up,
Oh,
and the songs sounded like the Chipmunks.
oh my goodness.
That's just ludicrous.
And
Honestly,
lazy now.
Scotty, that is just bonkers, isn't it? That is just absolutely bonkers.
But the competition became so fierce at
Of
one
course
point.
it did. They wanted
And
to
it was
be us.
Capital versus Heart versus Virgin versus Magic versus Radio 1 in London versus Kiss. And they all seemed to be competing over the same 10 bloody records. M People, anything by M People, Still, Kiss from a Rose, Everything But the Girl,
Bloody Lighthouse
Missing.
Family.
Those,
one of my least
I like that
favourite
one.
Simply Red.
Ocean
And it was
Drive.
the same 10 in the whole of the London market. And it
That's right.
drove everyone nearly crackers.
It was
Yes.
it was brutal, but you know, you were fighting I was going to say this, and it comes back, I guess, to the point I was about to make, that we had the best of it. Neil didn't. We had the best of it because when we were there, it had been started by Sir Richard Attenborough, and it felt like a family. It was amazing. It felt like a family.
It was warm. It was cuddly
It
capital.
was you just felt you were with a load of mates, and you're thinking, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this. I'm having wonderful fun with lovely people who, to this day, from 1984, we are still friends. We
May I
still
just say, I
see
don't want
each
to rub
other.
it in, but of course you were in the Flying Eye. I went to the south of France on a yacht.
Yeah,
LA
thanks.
a couple of times.
Yeah,
I know.
thanks. Thanks.
We went to Australia twice, Tasmania,
Thanks, yeah.
all over the bloody world.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Not
Thanks.
Russ, I have to
Thank
stay
you.
in
Not me.
I remember
I was
the
the sheet
Tasmania
anchor,
jingle.
never
It's
went
bringing back loads
sodding
of
anywhere.
memories. That Tasmania jingle, I remember that. That was really
Oh, I
good.
know.
Well, Kenny Everett found that.
Did
I'm not
he?
Kenny
surprised.
Everett
It
found
sounds
that.
very Kenny Everett.
Down
Yeah.
to Tasmania.
Hobart, Tasmania.
That's it. Hobart,
That's my
Tasmania. That was
favourite
it.
town.
Yes.
Da 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 da. Hobart, Tasmania. Waking, and I wrote actually a new one. I rewrote the words for Chris Tarrant, and then it all ended. So
It ended.
Yeah, it
Kiss
did.
from a
Was it
Rose
you
was
that
the
sang the
first
jingle?
dance at my
Tarrant in
wedding.
the rush hour.
Yes,
Yeah.
I sang
I
all those
thought-
lovely jingles.
I thought that was you because every time I hear the Jane Wheatling song, I immediately think of you to this day.
I always think it's you.
Send me.
So I've got my own car and neural pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the car.
You know,
and
I
your-
wish I had them. I'd love to hear them all again because we did them for every time we went away.
There's somewhere on the Tinternet that you can find all sorts
Yes.
of stuff there.
I found
Here's a weird little fact going to blow Neil Long's mind. You used to have, back in the day when I first met you, a singing telegram company
I did.
called Am I right? Songbirds. Was it called
Songbirds.
Songbirds?
From
And one of your
1984.
singing telegrams did quite well for himself.
I know, didn't he? Well, Julian Clary, who is my gay Tarzan.
Can you believe that?
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
What could
Everybody,
possibly go wrong?
the point I make with that is everybody has to start somewhere. No one just was plopped in and became a star. And there's
Well,
Julian Clary as gay Tarzan with Cara's singing telegram.
I know he was here, and and he did my balloons as well. But I came over here in April. This is April, January, because
Yeah.
my cousin Ian, he's 93, and my sister wasn't well, so I flew in last minute. And on my internet, it said cheap tickets, Boxing Day sale. I thought, oh, I know, I'm going to go to the Panto.
Yeah.
I went to virtually the last night of the Panto with Julian at the Palladium,
Yeah.
and through my friend. I got to go backstage and say hello.
Did he
Do we-
remember you and everything?
Of course, we had a little reminisce about the old days, his Tarzan outfit, because that was very successful for 5 years. Then it
Yeah.
collapsed because people started going topless. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do? And David Briggs, come and you can work at Capitol. Come and do a few things behind the scenes.
Unbelievable.
Actually, we just went through how it all started for me there.
Apparently, you were credited with inventing the suspendergram.
I did. Thank you very much for noticing. I did. And
I never had the pleasure of seeing that.
That just sounds. Fat Scotty says she's still my schoolboy crush even now.
Oh,
You're
stop it,
so in
Scotty.
there. You
Oh,
are
Fat
in there.
Scotty, you
And
darling. Thank
Paul
you.
Rose says, he's a fellow radio professional. He says, "Kiss from a Rose was the first dance at my wedding. I feel guilty now." So you should.
Yeah, so you blooming well should.
I hear that
Ramsey,
once more.
yeah,
I can't
And I love
Ramsey,
Seal.
Ramsey
I was
says
so
this.
excited to hear it the other day. I was.
Fats got it. It gave them 13 to 16 hours per song. Big City then had Capital Group over. Oh God, yeah. Your show had huge power, yeah. And it was just the stop. We were slaves to the share price. I keep saying that phrase, but it's true. It stopped being cuddly capital and it became city capital because that's all they wanted. And I get it. You know, I live in the real world. It just wasn't very pleasant.
Well, can I just say one thing? They may have been making loads of money from the breakfast show, but I wasn't. I'm going to just say that right now.
Yeah.
But
I was not treated very well when it came to money.
That is true. That's when there was huge. Let's be absolutely honest. That was huge inequality.
Disparity. We get to use a posh word.
It was a huge disparity. Amazingly so. I'm not doing figures. You once told me, in fact, only last year, and I was staggered.
You were
staggered. I was shocked.
Staggering. Yeah,
I was absolutely
I was paid like the tea lady.
I imagine it still happens to this day, and it's not something I agree with, but unfortunately, it's still a thing.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Ramsey says this. Capital was such a big part of my youth, pre-internet. I remember all the jocks, little Nicky Horn, who I knew when we were 14 onwards. Still see Nicky. I still see Nicky all these years. And his mum is still alive. Unbelievable. Graham Dean, whose mother-in-law turned 100 the other day. Can you believe that? Julie's mum. Kenny Everett, obviously. Mike Smith, no longer with us. Pat Sharp, I think, unless we're going into tennis land. Richard Allenson, who's lovely, still see him. Yes. Adrian Love.
Mick Brown, I work with to this day, by the way, Cara. I don't know if you knew that. He does drive time on Radio Jackie. So we still work together.
Oh, he's
he got me my job at Capitol in the first place. So it's full circle that we still work together today.
Yeah,
and what was a real buzz, it's a bit of an ego thing, but when Graham Dean came to Radio Jackie, he filled in on the breakfast show, which is what I do there. And I remember hearing the words, "It's Graham Dean in for Neil Long." And I thought I would never hear those words. It's like, what? I thought, little Neil Long from New Malden, there's being sat in for by Graham Dean. It's like Wayne's World. We're not worthy. He's such a lovely guy, real professional, really nice guy.
Never have lunch or dinner with him because it is the slowest process in the world. Eventually, I just order for him. I decide.
And he can't decide. I remember this about him.
I just cannot decide. It's ridiculous. So life in LA is good. You're settled. You're happy. You have a lovely home there, and the family are well over here now. Your family, Mr. Nicholas Frew is good. He's well.
He lives over there now too. My little boy. He used to do the jingle when it was the.
That wasn't very funny.
Yes. My cholesterol makes you morning. Cholesterol makes you die.
I can't believe that's
He's
him.
45 now, the bugger.
He's 45.
45.
Anybody feeling a little bit older now? Because you remember that jingle with the little kid? He's 45.
This is making me feel very nostalgic. Sometimes you get those things called air check downloads, and they get put on the Anorak radio sites. And sometimes people send me one of me, and I'll play it to my daughter and go, "Hey, good, wasn't I?" But then they're put on one of the old Pat Sharp shows. I will get all doughy-eyed and nostalgic. It's like, oh my god, it really takes you back. Ramsey says, we were talking about Jeff Love earlier on. My mum had a bunch of Jeff Love orchestra records, and I never knew Adrian Love was Jeff's son. And until this morning, Ramsey, neither did I. I never knew that.
He was his son.
Yeah, I remember the name Adrian Love. Never knew he was related to Jeff.
I'm getting it now.
Yeah.
Jeff Love was a black band leader. I think he was black.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yes,
now I'm getting it.
And Elizabeth said she was friends with him. Okay.
Yes.
Fat Scotty, this is a nice way to end this up. Thank you, Cara, for the memories, the laughs, the schoolboy crush, and for your legacy. I'm getting a bit emotional. I'll be honest. I didn't think I would. I'm getting a bit stupidly emotional. Long may you continue.
Absolutely.
Thank
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Cara Noble, you freaking legend. We love you. Thank you. Thank you.
Cara, I love you too, and I'm pleased to say this time I was no longer shy to speak to you.
Oh, I like that.
It's been lovely. Have a
really good to see you again, Cara. Much love.
I know
Yes.
you're off on Wednesday back to LA, so we won't have a
Yes.
chance to catch up.
I'll be
Enjoy the weather in London. It's not raining for
lovely
once.
today.
Cara Noble, what a ledge. Bye,
Russell.
darling. Bye-bye.
Bye, Longy.
Bye. Ah, there she goes.
Well, that brought back some lovely memories.
That was. I hope you enjoyed that.
I loved it. So nice to see Cara again. Brought back loads of great memories.
I feel a little tearful. It's weird, isn't it?
It's
Anyway,
a little bit emotional.
Neil and I will be back on Wednesday, back to our normal thing of
With
helping
Hattie
you.
Savari, the legal eagle that makes law fun.
She does, with one of your fabulous jingles as well. Until Wednesday, stay out of trouble, everybody. Bye, gang.